Unheard of. It brought dignity to the whole death row.
One day, over the transom, I got a manuscript, and I thought it was terrific. And I made 12 copies, and I sent it to 12 of the people whom I thought were the most radical people in publishing.
Well, the first time I heard about Mumia was at a publishing conference where his book, Live from Death Row, was announced. My first impression was I was completely bewildered.
One of the 12, offered $30,000. I tried to make it more, but I didn't succeed. So we got more money in that year than Mumia has made in the 15 years following that.
After the publication of Live from Death Row, and at the beck and call of rapacious politicians, the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections subjected Abu Jamal to disciplinary proceedings for conducting the business or profession of journalism, and then banned all interviews. But Mumia won the subsequent court battle, and the right for journalists to film and record his work on site, arguing that he could not be singled out. So in order to shut these voices down, prison authorities banned cameras and recording devices from all prisoner visitation sessions at all prisons across the state. The rule is unofficially referred to as the Mumia Rule. In the wake of this attempt to silence prisoners, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge signs Mumia's death warrant.
When I raised the First Amendment as a defense, I was told, well, this has nothing to do with First Amendment rights. Essentially, I was punished for communicating.
Daddy, why did they shoot you and why are they hitting and kicking you, Abu? They've been wanting to do this for a long time, baby girl. But don't worry, Daddy's fine. See?
I don't even feel it.
The press obviously contacted me and wanted to know why I was supporting this guy. I certainly had a fear, that I wouldn't have a career anymore. I think during the performance, we even got a phone call. Yes, we got some kind of tip-off that the police were gonna come. You take me back a lot of years, and it's just like, oh man, and that we may be shut down or stopped, and there was danger, Will Robinson, and everyone got nervous. You know you're doing the right thing. You know you have to give us a voice. Otherwise, he's dead tomorrow.
People such as Whoopi Goldberg, Ed Asner, Mike Farrell, Ozzie Davis, you have certain politicians who are sponsoring this benefit for a cop killer.
The company was coming under attack from the police for publishing the book, and the Fraternal Order Police sent an airplane over the headquarters of Addison Wesley with a banner that read something like, Addison Wesley publishes cop killer. And that hit Addison Wesley pretty hard. One of the ironies is that the book was selling so well, the controversy was working so well, that they were breaking records in their sales.
I speak from Pennsylvania's death row.
A bright, shiny, highly mechanized hell.
The first time I read Mumia was when I was working at Seven Stories Press as an editor, and we were publishing his book, All Things Censored.
In this place, a dark temple of fear, an altar of political ambition.
Death is a campaign poster.
A stepping stone to public office. In this space and time, in this dark hour, how many of us
are not on death row?
We feel energized that there's somebody else out there who's seeing the world, who's seeing race, class, power, and gender from a liberation point of view. It's not from the point of view of profit, not from the point of view of who's gonna win a two-party contest, but from the perspective of how are we gonna live in a liberated society.
Mumia is imitating the first cry of the first slave brought to this country who said no.
There was never a time when Africans blindly, obediently accepted their fate. They poisoned their captors, they burned down houses and barns, they ran away. But Africans fought in every way possible against their inhuman fate.
enslave these people, keep them so intimidated, scared, hateful of themselves, don't allow them to worship God without white supervision, exploit their labor, degrade their bodies, and what did black people do? Stole away at night and held hands in a lifted their voices and said, swing low, sweet chariot, swing low.
One of the problems with so many of our people is that they're so abysmally ignorant of their own history and their own people.
I grew up like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty, having no experience of it.
Every time I saw a white man, I was afraid of being carried away. I had 2 sisters carried away in a chain gang. One of them left 2 children. I think slavery is the next thing to hell.
Yeah, they're being terrorized, but they don't create a black Al-Qaeda. No. No, they don't want to terrorize others. They're fighting slavery. They don't want to enslave white brothers and sisters. No. They want freedom for everybody.
Harriet Tubman, freedom fighter. Her name is a holy one, high on freedom's altar. It should be forever remembered.
That's Brother Mumia. Justice, not revenge. Freedom for all, not just freedom for my friends, the people who look like me.
It should be forever remembered.
What, to the American slave, is your 4th of July?
To him, your celebration is a sham. Your shout of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your sermons and thanksgivings with all your religious parade and solemnity are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy.
A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour.
Frederick Douglass, 1852.
Visit www.prisonradio.org to listen to all of Mumia Abu-Jamal's commentaries.
One is amazed and even astonished to consider those millions who today claim spiritual lineage from a being called Christ.
For a decade, Mumia's voice was silent, a journalist trapped in solitary confinement, his melodic, silky baritone gone way too soon. But in July of 1992, prison radio producer Noel Hanrahan traveled to rural Pennsylvania to record the death row prisoner. These were to be his first radio broadcasts since he was shot and arrested. For a few hours, Mumia was back in a funky old recording studio. Even the thick plexiglass separating talent from engineer was the same. The difference? Heavily armed guards and tightly shackled wrists. But it was hard to tell that they were recording in a hell on earth, with the reporter sentenced to die.
For if one were from outer space and able to view life on this planet for a century or so, one might observe this.
The first time I heard Mumia's words, I was kind of struck. It took me back. I was like, who is this?
Christians are the wealthiest humans on the 3rd planet. They seem to be the most violent humanoids, having brought about 2 world wars, tens of thousands of murders, and millions of rapes, assaults, and lynchings.
I can't bear to listen to people who sound phony. And so if I had detected any hint of phoniness in his voice, I would not have listened to him at all.
They are the only group to have dropped an atomic bomb on other non-Christian people, to have colonized and enslaved whole races of other humans, and to have committed genocide on an unsurpassed scale. American Indians, Jews, for example.
I'm particularly struck by Mumia's ability to work what you call short-form radio. The fact that he has to research them from a prison cell, where he's allowed very restricted access to research materials, the fact that he has to put them together with no editorial support, and then the fact that he has to produce them generally in one take. I mean, all these are working circumstances that I don't think most professional journalists or commentators would be able to function under.
Transitions on Traditions at listener-supported radio KPFA. This is Greg Bridges in your ears.
He is a studied and noted journalist who has community roots. He speaks truth with logic. I think that frightens government because so many people are listening to Mumia.
What's up, fam? You're tuned to Hard Knock Radio here on listener-sponsored radio station KPFA in Berkeley, California. Up next on the program, political prisoner and commentator Mumia Abu-Jamal on Mad in the Middle East. When you think about hip-hop culture being in your face, Mumia is in your face, whether you want to hear it or not. Many times you have young hip-hop artists that are saying what no one wants them to say. We're the ear to the streets, right? Mumia is that
for so many different people and individuals.
I've worked in juvenile lockdown facilities and adult prisons, leading writing workshops and poetry workshops. There's a handful of writers that seem to really, really resonate. For some reason, tends to be Mumia, Tupac, and Bob Dylan. I don't know what that triumvirate of evil or good is about.
We're rolling. Justice means if the jury finds them guilty, then that's justice to me. That's the way we do things in America, right?
I say take them out, put them in the regular population. Maybe somebody out there will do the job for us and we don't have to worry about this nonsense.
I'm glad to be credited for creating the term Numidians. They hate America, and they use him as a symbol and a focus of their hate.
It's a big thing in Philly, okay? I think too many people like the Beastie Boys and stuff like that are trying to make it their own cause.
And Mumia becomes a handy symbol for them to use against the system that they believe is racist and colonial and homophobic and military and capitalist and everything else that they despise.
So why all the people in Hollywood and stuff are so into it, I just can't understand. Can't even fathom.
He's articulate. He's good looking. I have to ask myself if he would have quite so much support if he were ugly and inarticulate.
Paul Newman, who I liked, I stopped watching his film after a while because he came in defense of me. They have no clue about it.
The overwhelming majority of Philadelphians believe he is guilty, and they're just tired of it.
I don't know that much.
We want to know your opinion on Mumia Abu Jamal.
Who?
Have you ever heard of him before?
No.
Okay, great. All right, thank you for your time. Thanks a lot.
I've never read any of his books. I didn't feel any need to because I understand they are diatribes, mostly, or they're propaganda.
We live within the shadow of Columbus today, which means there has been over 500 years of manifest destiny, meaning white supremacy over all non-white life.
Any form of art is a form of power. It has impact. It can affect change. Ossie Davis.
Es indignante saber que hay más periodistas muertos en México que en Irak.
¿Aquí?
Moved by the struggle of Mumia Abu Jamal, young Mexican artists Ricardo Samaniego Mendoza and Helena Moguel Samaniego created this installation entitled The Corridor of the Silenced Ones, or El Corredor de los Silenciados.
Mumia como periodista y como escritor es importante no solo por su trabajo previo a la prisión, sino por lo que ha hecho estando allí y la manera en la que ha evidenciado todas las injusticias y la corrupción que se comete en el sistema legal estadounidense.
Creo que más bien esto tiene como que ver con la gente que está arriba. Tal vez al gobierno de Estados Unidos no le convenga que se sepan de este tipo de situaciones y de este tipo de casos, porque por imagen, sin importar a quién pisotee y sin importar ante qué manos caiga la justicia.
Y creo que eso es muy importante porque lo he evidenciado y porque si a él le pasó, debe de haberle pasado a muchas personas más antes de a él que no se ha sabido, y la gente debe de saber eso.
If somebody goes out into the streets using the tools and mechanisms of an imperial power, you can't win. You can't win with money, you can't win with guns. To quote the Zapatistas, our words are our weapons.
This is what he's able to do with political theory. This is what he's able to do to make what's on CNN the lie that it is and tell it to you with the charisma of a Malcolm X.
And that's dangerous. That's beautiful. That's what Mumia does.
It's this ability to connect with people that I think inspires other people on the outside to connect with him and to say, yes, I want to go on a journey with this man because I need to connect like that too.
We should remember that during slavery, and even post-Reconstruction, there were people who functioned to benefit from the system, black people, even while the vast majority suffered from horrendous and, to be honest, terroristic conditions. Their function was to teach passivity in the face of repression.
He's a remarkable teacher. I think, for me, that is what I most treasure.
Mumia's words could be taught to school children. We'd be a better people, a better country.
Which is one of the reasons I organized Educators for Mumia, because he's a co-teacher with us, in fact, a teacher of us in many respects.
I have Mumia speak to my students via conference call on a regular basis. Mumia!
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, it's wonderful to hear your voice.
The response is, first of all, visceral. It's emotional. And I think it's emotional not just because it's eloquent, but also because it takes one to the heart of struggle.
And yet, he's depicted as a monster, as a raving lunatic.
We have yet to acknowledge, much less agree, that there is still a caste system at work in the U.S.
You see this man who is behind bars continuing to fight against injustice and fight against racism, fight against poverty. It encourages us who are on the outside, us who are not incarcerated. It gives us motivation to do more, and it also raises our expectations of what we should be able to do, us being outside these walls.
He understands that we have to continue this fight because it is still going on to this very day. And it's not about him, it's about everyone else, it's about the collective. He's holding the media outlets accountable, he's holding the world accountable, he's holding ourselves accountable for understanding the truth behind what's really going on. In his mind, he sees the possibility of freedom.
I think that he's given so much to humanity that it's our obligation to continue that sense of truth and to kind of be warriors for justice.
For a student who would miss the class today, I think the only thing that I would have to say to them would be, I'm sorry, because they really truly did miss out on something spectacular.
We get a lot of heat from authorities. Supposedly we're just getting political. Not so. We as educators are into Mumia Abu-Jamal's writings and others because he provokes a profound analysis from perspectives that educators often ignore and neglect. And if they're ignoring and neglecting it, they're not being good educators.
Thank you for this lift. I love you all.
Thank you.